On today's video, we tackle a common problem with Chevys and GMC pickups with a 5.3 engine. Stay tuned. Welcome back and/or to the channel. Today's video, I'm doing a very common problem with Chevy and GMC pickups with a 5.3 engine. And what we're replacing is a communication switch for the oil pressure. And what this basically allows the engine to do is to determine how much oil pressure the engine is receiving. And as we get into other vehicles that we are going to be discussing, there is a issue with oil pressure sensors when it comes to newer vehicles. Anything that has a VVT engine or variable valve timing or variable or multiple cylinder displacement allows for the vehicle to shut down certain cylinders as need be. And how it shuts those down is through your oil. So these sensors are now becoming extremely crucial, where before they just monitored what the engine oil was, would throw a light on, simple things. Now they're overcomplicating the system, and if these fail, it can mess up your engine. So you need to keep track of what you have going on with your engine. And if you start throwing codes, make sure you get them scanned right away, because if you miss that code, more than likely you're going to have other issues that could result in an engine failure. So in order to get set up, we're going to pop the hood on this, find the location of this. So let's get the hood open. Let's get started on this project. Before I start, I'd like to say I'm trying to do a link down below for all my playlists. If you get a chance, go down in the descriptions and you can view any of the playlists that I've created so far. Just a chance to kind of binge watch some of the content that's already out there. And we do have a lot more coming for the Crimson 5.7, so stay tuned for that. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is get a light underneath here so that I can see kind of where I need to reach and what I'm reaching for. And then I can go ahead and get a socket on it. Now this does take a special socket that you will have to order. And it is a 27mm socket that you can get at any auto parts stores where you buy it. And the reason that you need the socket is because it takes a special deep well socket in order to put this sensor in. Because of the height of the sensor, you can't just use a normal socket. You need one that is extremely deep. And you may be able to get by with using an impact socket, but an impact socket might be too big. It might be too thick to get it down in there where we need to get at in order to get this out. And that's what we're about to look at. So for now, I'm just going to use a flashlight, and I'm going to look around and see where that sensor is located. Before I get too crazy, I'm probably going to have to remove some engine covers. I may wind up having to actually lay right here in order to get back there in order to replace them. Apparently, this one has already had some of the clips broke for the engine cover, because all it did was just lay down on top of it. Oh, they never had it pressed in. Okay, we will go ahead and fix that for them. Okay, the sensor has been located. I will have to move some stuff around, and you may not be able to get in to see where it is located, but I will do my best to give you a shot at it. As long as you're laying on the truck like this, you can reach your hand down on the driver's side and you're going to find fuel rails that run down. That sensor is located just to the left of those fuel lines, and you'll be able to feel it pretty easily. And it's not hard to get in there and do that. It's real simple. I should be able to get it in there, and with about a 6-inch or 8-inch extension on that socket, I should be able to break that sensor loose, pull it out, and then replace it. But I'm going to set up with a light to try to get as much in there as I can. I'm going to move you in on one of my smaller tripods so that hopefully you can see more of what's going on here. I've got you set up pointed right where that sensor is located in the back, and kind of what I have to do. The problem is that when I reach in there to do this, there is a chance that my arm is going to block this shot, and that's about the only spot that I have to get at this. So I will do what I can, but I definitely want to show you the sensor as I pull it out. Okay, so when I crawl in here, I'm going to try to set this up so you can see where I'm reaching here. And I may have too many extensions on, so that I will have to look at. Now, if you take this to a shop, they're wanting to charge you to pull this upper intake off and to pull all this stuff out of the way. Now, to do that job, you're looking at taking a, $50, $60 sensor and turning this into a $400 or $500 repair, as long as they don't have to replace that plenum. Now, if they have to take it apart and that plenum is cracked, now you got to buy a plenum. That could be another $300, $400. So again, you've got nearly $1,000 into a repair at a dealership, where if you can work on this stuff at home and you can find ways of getting in there to get these out, it will save you money. Basically what I'm trying to do is locate the sensor with my hand and then get the socket on it. And there is, as you can see, I'm moving the line for the brake. And that line is your vacuum line for your brake booster. So that is kind of in the way here. But it's a very soft line that you can move around. I would not feel a bit concerned about moving that around and doing what you need to do in order to get in there. But that is some of the reason why they are wanting to remove this intake, because they're afraid of cracking that. Okay, and this sensor feels a lot different than the one that's in here. So I'm going to compare these when I pull them out. And if I have an issue, I'm going to go to my local auto parts store and I'm going to cross-reference the part and make sure we get the right one in here, just because of how difficult it is to actually get in here and do this. I mean, a lot of my time right now is just spent getting the tool over the top of where I need it to be. So the last thing we want to do is put in a part that doesn't work like it's supposed to, and then we're forced to go back in here and pull this out. And like I said, this is a difficult spot to reach. You can only go in from the one side. There's no way to reach around the intake to get in there. So you're kind of in a tough spot, needless to say. Okay, so now my socket has been placed onto, or my ratchet is actually clicked into my extension. My socket is located on the sensor down below. I've already checked to make sure that my ratchet's going in the right way, so I'm going to very carefully spin this loose. But again, I can only reach from the one side, so I have to be careful not to crack or break anything. There's a lot of plastic in here, a lot of components that can get wrecked, and you don't want to get into a spot where you can't get everything out. Once you've broken parts loose, you don't want it to wedge. So a lot of times you're forced to just break it loose with your tools, then you got to reach in by your hand. At this point, you're almost bear hugging the engine. And I can spin it loose, just my fingertips. Here is the sensor. It is exactly like the one we got, so we're just going to go ahead, slip the new one down in there and thread it in. Now the new one will come with some Loctite on it. It will also have this crush ring, which is an oil seal ring. These are common. You'll see these even on oil drain plugs or any place where you want a pressurized seal. So make sure that when you took your old one out that ring stayed on the sensor. If it didn't, you're going to have to go fishing and find that seal. What we're going to do is reach back in there, bear hug it, thread this down by hand as best we can, and then we're going to plug it in. Because you've got the Loctite on it, threading it all the way down by hand is going to be kind of difficult. So you might wind up having to put your extension on and thread it down with the socket and extension, like we've done in other videos. But you want to be careful that you don't smash or crack that new sensor going in. You'll get to a point where you're going to have to put it back on the ratchet. So make sure that you're going the right way on your ratchet. Slip your ratchet in. Like I said, this is really difficult because you've only got one side to play with. If you could reach around the back, you could make this go a lot easier for yourself. But because you can't get around the back, you're having to do everything on this side of the engine. And with all the plastic in here, you want to be careful where you're putting your arms, where you're putting your hands. You don't want to be disconnecting wires or breaking anything plastic. This is the bad part of what they've done with these vehicles now. You'll feel it when it bottoms out. I'll show you on the old sensor once I get this one in what you're checking for. There is a bottom out point where that sensor will bottom out. And that's what I keep checking for, is how far I am from it bottoming out and hitting that oil seal that we have in there. Okay. Like I said, you want to put a little pressure on it because you're trying to get that oil seal to crush a little bit. So you have to put a little pressure on it. You don't want to get super carried away though, because you don't want to have an issue where you break it. We're bottom down. For people who are right-handed, this will be a little easier. For people who are left-handed, you're going to be fighting trying to get in here. You'll be working kind of backwards. And that does clip on there really, really difficult. There is a little tab that I'll show you on the old one. Okay, so as you're tightening it down, what you're trying to do is get to this crush ring right here and compress this crush ring. When you plug the sensor in, you have a weird 3-prong like this, and you have to clip it down and get it over this tab. That's what locks it into place. So now that we've replaced the sensor, what we're going to do is clean up our tools so we don't drop anything into the engine. We're going to grab our scan tool. We're going to start this vehicle. What we're going to do is reset any of the codes that are on this system already. Just going to go ahead and clear them out. And the reason we're going to do that is we want to make sure we fix the issue. And what I may have to do is take this vehicle out and drive it in order to really know that it's been fixed. But once the vehicle's been fixed, we should be good to go. Now there's other small things I'll probably do to this before I give it back. I noticed that there was a low tire pressure. That might be the valve stem itself, or it might be the sensor inside the wheel. So we will find out which one that is. But let's go ahead and get our scan tool hooked up. There is our data port. So what we're going to do, let's hook up our data port. Okay. We heard it beep when we plugged it in. We're going to go ahead and turn the key to the run position. So what we're going to do is take a look at our codes. So how we do that to look at our trouble codes is we're first going to do a scan. And in order to do a scan, I'll go to the S on the symbol of my scanner, go to OBD2 and hit the action button. And it is showing no codes at this point. So I'm going to go into OEM enhancement. Now, I haven't gone over a scan tool video, which I will be doing, and I'll go over the different functions. But the reason you want to do the OBD2 and the OEM enhancement is OEM enhancement may pick up something that the OBD2 does not. No codes present. We're going to go in here. This one I'm just doing the safety restraint and the ABS I'm just doing because I'm already here. Feel like I can save them some time by just doing it. So in the safety restraint, we have a second row seat belt, load limiter, deployment switch, and to look, I can see down here at diagnostic code or the fast forward and look at the different codes. And all codes are the one code. So that tells me that the second row center seat belt load limiter deployment control has a subfault. Subfault could be something as simple as just an airbag, or could be something as simple as a switch, or it could be something as a ground that's located on the rear seat. You'll have to probably dig into that to find out what's going on there. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear everything I possibly can right now, and then I'm going to take a look at what comes back during the test drive. So to clear, even if it's not showing, we should be able to clear these. So we're going to go into here, go OBD2. It will scan it. And we can go ahead and clear all freeze frames. Okay. You can also go into here. We're going to clear all the enhanced. Okay, so now that everything's done, the only thing left is to do the test drive. So I'm going to go ahead, shut everything up, get the vehicle backed out, and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, we're ready for the test drive. And we want to get a few miles on this just to make sure we got it fixed. And what we're going to be watching for is what the oil pressure does, and we may be pulling some live data with the scanner. And in order to set that live data up, what we're going to do is go into the M setting on the scanner. I'm getting a lot of reflection there. We're going to go down to a live data menu, which is the second one down. We're going to do custom live data, which is at the top. Now this allows us to pick everything that we want to monitor. Okay, so now that I've selected everything I want, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on it and have it start feeding me live data. And I'm idling a little low. That might be because there may be a dirty throttle body or a dirty air filter. I will bring that up to the customer. Throttle position sensors reading a little far. That tells me that throttle position is a little off, probably due to a dirty throttle body. And what I'm doing is I'm watching the voltage on my O2s. Your sensor 2 should not fluctuate wildly. Those should be pretty consistent at smaller increment changes, where your other ones should be bouncing anywhere from 0.8 to 0.1. Those will fluctuate wildly on your sensor 1s. Your sensor 2s should be pretty level, and they're having an issue with sensor 1 bank 2 is fluctuating wildly where it shouldn't be. There, now we're starting to see some leveling out. Some of that might also be due to a dirty throttle body or dirty air filter, because it's trying to compensate for them. Okay, so now that we're pulling live data, let's go ahead and start this test drive. And we do have the sensor for the airbag is still on, and the tire pressure monitor, and I did put enough air pressure in to balance it out, so that tells me that the sensors inside the tires are going bad. Now, is it crucial on this vehicle? No, it's not. It can be ran the way it is with the tire pressure monitor system not operating. you're just going to want to check your tires. And it did say left rear tire, but also at the same time, that tire was about 10 to 15 pounds low from where it was supposed to be. So it may take some time to readjust that sensor. And I can also check the owner's manual, as long as it's in here, I can check the owner's manual to see if it actually has a reset process for those tire pressure monitor systems. But a lot of those run on batteries, and if the batteries start to go weak or bad, it's not going to read. And if it's just not picking up the signal, then it just needs new monitor systems put in it when they put the new tires on. But that's another cost that you add in there, and to replace them is about as much as what a full-size truck tire is to replace your monitors. So it gets to be a whole lot of added cost that a lot of people don't do, which is why I suggest going to a decent shop that will take the systems apart, put new batteries in them, recalibrate them for your new tires, and just make sure they put the air pressure that you want in it before they recalibrate them, because once they calibrate them, it's calibrated to the pressure that they set the tires to at the time. So I do have some stuff to do at the parts store here, so I'm going to dip in quick, and then we're going to go take this out on the road and test drive it for a few miles. We want to make sure that it's good to go. So I'll be back with you. Okay, so now that we're back from the test drive, I had a chance to talk to the owner, and they said that the remote start was not working prior to doing this. I had a feeling that that had something to do with that oil pressure sensor, because if the engine can't read that there's oil pressure, it's going to start cutting things out. It's going to start limiting that system. But that's how you go about changing that sensor. Like I said, there is a screen down inside there, and you do need to check to make sure that screen's okay. If it is, you can just replace the sensor, plug it back in, make sure everything's nice and tight and it's not leaking. I will be doing a double check to make sure there's no leaks, but that's about the process that you would do to change that out. Again, you're going to need a deep well 27 millimeter socket. You'll need the sensor, and you may have to lay across the top of the engine and only work from the driver's side to get in there. But I'd like to say thank you for watching today's video. Please shoot this video a like, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.